And welcome back to another episode of the Awfully Irish podcast. Today we're joined by Zeke Alton. How about you introduce yourself, Zeke?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Zeke Alton. I'm an actor. I live in Los Angeles. I do on-camera work, but the majority of my work these days is done in voiceover, animation, video games, and things like that. Still relatively new in the business, and I'm what I would call a blue-collar working actor. So no one in the world's ever going to recognize me, but that's fine. I still get to do what I enjoy.
Well, I mean, you're getting close to what you just did recently. You were Peck in Cold War.
I am Peck in Cold War. I am also a Wolf in the new operator bundle that's coming out for Warzone. And if I count it right, 9 other characters between Warzone and Cold War.
Wow.
Think you could explain the Wolf thing real quick? What's
Sure. So for those who are not familiar with the Warzone portion of Call of Duty, it's sort of the battle royale, drop you in a big island and you all kill each other thing. And you can choose which operator you choose to fight with. And that's basically the graphic skin of the character. And when they come out with new seasons, they'll come out with new graphic skins of the characters. And each of those characters has a voice and line set for when they're throwing grenades or getting shot or screaming at their buddy or telling them where to go. And so in the latest season that has just come out a few days ago, they're releasing 4 operators, and one of them is a fellow by the name of Terrell Wolf. And so I do his voice.
Oh, an operator. That's pretty cool.
There you go. Keep an eye out.
Awesome.
You can actually also play those operators across into Cold War as well. So.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how they're combining Modern Warfare and Black Ops, which is something they've never done before. It's pretty cool. Looking forward to see how it turns out. But obviously, mainly known for Peck. And when you did the audition for Cold War in the first place, did you know it was a Call of Duty game?
Video games are a unique beast, and I know that your guests before have said this. When you get a video game audition, you can guarantee that whatever the name of the game and the name of the character are on the audition, that is absolutely what it is not. So I had no idea. For those that are like me, that are lifelong gamers, you can sometimes read the script and go, this is either Battlefield or Call of Duty, and then start to dig further. Same goes with like superhero games and stuff like that. You're like, it's a different name. He's missing his right arm, not his left arm, but I have a pretty good idea who this guy is. So I found out officially, actually, that it was Call of Duty at the first session when I spoke to the writer.
So kind of a last second job.
You audition, you book it, they say, hey, you're going to go in for this game, and they give you the code name, and then you go in and you walk in. And this was during pandemic times, so I was in a studio entirely by myself with everyone else on Zoom, which is kind of how they're doing it now. And the director said, okay, so first we'll tell you a little bit about the game that you're in. It is this. And you're like, oh, okay, great, cool. Let's move on. So you can only do so much character building before you actually show up to the session. Video games is a lot like that.
Mm.
And was it kind of weird doing stuff during COVID?
Very weird. It's I think I will speak for all voice actors when I say we're incredibly grateful for the fact that we could still work. Most of the entertainment industry, and certainly Los Angeles, came to a grinding halt last spring. But you can record voice from home. So once they figured out all the technical kinks, we did a couple of months where no one went into studio, but I have a studio at my house, and we just tunneled in, and I was here. And there were times when my sound engineer was in Mexico and my director was in San Francisco, and we'd run the session that way. And we did that for a couple of months. I wouldn't say that I prefer it. It's nice to not have to drive anywhere. But I personally do prefer to be in the studio, because then I have a professional engineer who can prevent me, particularly with games like Call of Duty, when you're using a lot of volume and stuff like that. If I have to work the technical side on my end, it just becomes a little bit of an extra challenge.
I remember we were talking to Bruce Thomas, who plays Russell Adler in the game, and he would have to go bring muffins to his neighbors after a recording session because of all the shit. Well, he's a voice character for the multiplayer, so he would have
Yeah.
had to scream a lot of grenades, get down. They probably thought they were going to be bombed, to be honest with you. It's like,
Yep.
Dude,
I
I never thought of that.
There's a lot of in jokes in the voiceover community about having to warn your neighbors about what you're doing if you're working on a horror game, or blood curdling screams, screaming you're going to murder someone, screaming someone's going to murder me, all kinds of stuff like that. You can really, you could get the police called on you because it can be disturbing for everyone else around.
I'm just imagining, like, someone calls the police on you, like he's gonna murder someone. They walk in here in a recording booth. Just
well, yeah, because you talk to your neighbors and you're like, yeah, I thought maybe you were beating up your wife. And I'm like, no. It's just I was beating up a pretend person in a video game. It was no big deal. And then they're like, really? Can I see your wife? So it's like, I just want to make sure she's okay.
Oh my god. That's so.
It's an interesting job, especially when you got to do it from home. It's much more relaxing when you're in the studio. You don't have to worry about how loud you're screaming, what time it is, or if I don't know what it is about Los Angeles, but they love a leaf blower here.
Yeah. Good luck, kids. I know you live in a weird place, man. Like Ireland's weird, but you're just a different breed.
I can't disagree with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it is so weird. Like, American is pretty much, I said, it's like the center of the world. Like, everybody knows what's happening all the time. We're from Ireland, and your celebrities are our celebrities. We're on all your social media. There's no Irish social media. It's like, we like to say we're Americanized the whole time because our culture is literally just American culture.
It's still got like its old Irish tones. But yeah, even when you had your whole presidential thing recently, there were lads going fighting tooth and nail with each other, saying whoever they would vote for. The idea that like Irish guys will be fighting and occasionally not talking to each other afterwards over Trump or Biden, and I can't even vote in this. Like, they live in a different country. Do you know how weird that is? It's like when they had like that Trump rally in Nigeria. Like, what was that going to do?
It's a reflection of globalization, right? We're a smaller world than we ever were, and in almost every facet of life, the United States has really an inordinately large amount of influence, both in the informational world, in technology and entertainment and culture. Militarily, we got all that going on. Economically, we're a massive powerhouse. So it's hard if you live somewhere else. And having grown up outside of America, I recognize that when you live in other parts of the world, you can't sort of get away from the elephant in the room, if you will, because what happens in America does tend to radiate out.
Why do you think that happens?
Why? Well, you could take a person like Donald Trump, for example. He could make decisions that would affect people around the world. Not that other global leaders don't. It's just that it tends to have a larger impact because of the economic and political and informational cultural might of the United States. And when it has potential negative impacts, people really start to listen.
Yeah. It is really crazy seeing like Trump heads over here, like lads who were just really into the guy and like.
Oh, you're way too into your politics. Because imagine if someone had like a vote for Leo sign on their car, Jared. How fucking stupid would that be, man? Dude. Like, you're all about your politics over this. Like, it's nothing over here. We don't really care who wins over here. Everything kind of just stays the same. We've had two political, like, they're not even. Can you explain it, Jared? Because you're more into this, like, how like our politics work and shit, man. Like,
well, it's similar to in the States, like it goes back to the Civil War. And it's a two-party system that only broke in the last election for the first time ever. And even at that, the group that won were so underprepared for winning that they couldn't actually do it. Yeah, they had to form like a
We've
coalition
seen that
government.
before. Yeah.
It's a bit like if Kanye's birthday party won presidential election.
Kanye won.
He had no idea what he was doing, which probably would have happened if he had won. I mean, like, could you imagine if Kanye had won the fucking election?
This is why everyone watches the States. You know, people like Kanye do this kind of stuff at like some of the most serious times.
I would say I couldn't imagine Kanye winning, but there was a time when I couldn't imagine Donald Trump being the U.S. president. So everything's fair game these days, right?
Dude,
I don't know.
It's a popularity. I mean,
is there a parallel to, because I grew up in England in the 80s, and so the issues in Ireland between the Brits and the IRA were a big thing. Is there a level of parallel there where people have just, because of where you live or who you are this and they are that?
It doesn't really affect us because we're dead set in the Republic, so it doesn't really affect us. Maybe people around the border, maybe Donegal, or I guess people like saying like Tyrone who think, you know, I'm absolutely Irish. Why am I part of the UK? That's where you get that kind of stuff, but not really with us, because, you know, we're so set in our place. Like I could wander every town in this area, like the entire county. I could go through all of Leinster. There'd be very few guys who think they're English, or should be part of the UK. But up north, it's a different breed. And whether that be down to your politics or your ancestry, I mean, it's up to people up there. Like at this point, what's the point in me saying, yeah, we should have the North back? Because it's the same as forcing those people to just, I don't know. Yeah, it's the same as forcing them to live here. So
yeah,
I know that doesn't fix a problem. Yeah, that's a sticky situation up north. But
that is a very patient view of it, though. Patience is not necessarily an American trait.
I don't know. It's just I used to know, because I did history and I got super into it, and I was like super aggro on it before when I was younger. And you know, when I grew up a little bit, I started thinking, Jesus Christ, that sounds so crazy. What I was thinking, or what, like my thought process on it, and then up to people up there, that doesn't mean shit what I think about if they should live down here or not. So what at this point? Yeah, but that's a different story altogether.
But we digress.
Yeah.
Yes.
Moving on swiftly.
Thank you.
You know, we're talking about the military power of the US as well. You were in the military for a long time before you became a voice actor.
I was. I graduated university in 1999 and joined the Navy. And I was in the Navy for 20 years. Lived lots of places all across the globe, deployed to lots of places, had many, many wonderful, fun adventures, and I loved my time in the military. By profession, I was a test pilot, so I got to do a lot of fun and interesting things. But yeah, it's funny. It was probably about 5 or 6 years ago at this point. I was in the middle of a test flight, reciting my lines for a play that weekend.
Dude.
And I realized to myself, I need to go ahead and make a change. So yeah, that was the genesis of, you should be an actor.
There you go.
Do you guys not have like military plays over there? You know,
they do, don't they?
You know, like Romeo and Juliet and stuff. I don't know, whatever.
Well, I mean, I did theater outside, just in the community where I lived. I enjoyed that, and sort of, I got so into it that it was, you know, you do something that starts to take over parts of your life, and it's difficult to be a full-time test pilot doing all the engineering and flying and all the risk assessment and all that stuff when you're thinking about the comedic blocking that you have going on later. So I was getting not old in terms of a pilot, but I was getting to the point where the younger pilots were doing the fun flying and I was doing the paperwork and the scheduling. So it was a good time to transition out, I think.
Yeah.
Didn't Al do dancing in the military, Jared, or something?
Salsa dancing, yeah.
He did salsa.
Salsa.
We had a guest on. He was also in Cold War. He's the operator Garcia. His name's Al Cornell, and he was also in the military. And he did like salsa dancing for them. And he traveled like the world doing salsa dancing. That's fucking cool, man.
And Rachel Kimsey from Black Ops 3, she came from a military family. A lot of them do, or they have some kind of experience. Like James wasn't in the military. James C. Burns, who played Woods, but he did like training with some of these guys. He got to fly off to these bases, and I don't know where he was at, but yeah, it's kind of cool.
Well, I mean, as an actor doing anything, you really need to bring yourself to the part. And so if you're doing military work as an actor, it's a benefit, you know. Like if I was playing a doctor, it would be easier if I had a medical background. I sort of leverage my skills and my time in the military to do the things I do in my acting. So I'm a natural fit for war games. I can bark at people all day like a drill instructor and not wear my voice out.
Power to you.
I can speak very intelligently and with experience on what it's like to be a radio operator. A radio operator. Oh, I can talk. A radio operator in an aircraft because I talked on aircraft radios for 20 years. So it's less acting and more just, do that thing that you remember how you know how to do and make it dramatic.
No, so I say it definitely helps, and especially like a game of Call of Duty where it's literally just war. You know. Yeah,
I mean, because when we got in session, the director, I do a healthy bit of dialect work, and so the director said, "Well, we need some pilots. We need the guys that you call in when you call in a chopper gunner or a napalm strike, and this dude needs to be Russian, and we'd like this dude to be some sort of European." And so I'm like, "Well, I could talk as a pilot, and you give me dialects if they're within my skill set, and we'll run the lines for each of them." And that's how I ended up with multiple characters, different characters within the game.
Yeah, that's fairly handy if you can kind of do different voices. You'd be having a hard time as a voice actor if it was just a one.
Actually, what's funny is some of the most successful voice actors just do their thing. They do their thing and they do it really, really well. Particularly when it comes to like modern plot-driven games, the Last of Us kind of cinematic games. They don't necessarily want you to have something that's put on. They just want a really good actor. So there are a couple of guys out there and gals who are generally often cast as leads, and it's usually just because they're such great actors and not because they're able to bounce all around with their voice. The utility player is everyone thinks they are in voiceover, but it's actually a very small niche of people that do it well. And it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
There's actually one, I didn't realize, we realized this in session. So there's a bunch of audio logs for Omega and Requiem in Zombies, for those that are familiar with the Call of Duty Zombies. And I went in one day to just record a bunch of characters, and we came back one day and we were doing Peck, and we had quite a lot of Peck to do, and we were having fun with Peck because he's such a jerk. And he said, "Okay, we got this audio log, and this fella Gorev comes in and he threatens Peck." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Can we bring up the vocal reference for Gorev?" And they bring up the vocal reference for Gorev, and it's me. And so then I'm acting as Peck against myself as Gorev. And as it ended up, I'm Peck and Gorev, but I'm also Peck and his assistant Kukle, the guy whose eye you dig out. So the audio logs where they're experimenting together or arguing with each other is also me arguing with myself.
You do that a lot.
So it's like a worthy opponent kind of thing. It's like the only man to take me down is me. You're
at least I know I'm going to win the argument.
Exactly. But you're also going to lose the argument, which is like,
that's the thing.
It's like
glass is half full, right?
There you go.
If you're that kind of guy.
No, just bouncing back to your military experience. What was your biggest takeaway from it? You were there for a long time.
So many. It teaches you soft skills, discipline, how to be on time, how to talk to people, how to take criticism, how to know when it's time to be blunt and upfront, how to take blunt and upfront from someone else, how how to converse both formally and informally with different groups of people. The U.S. military is a tool. Any military is a tool designed to do one thing, right? Kill people, break stuff. But the U.S., because they pump all of our money into our military, uses our military to do everything. So I've been a mediator, I've been a negotiator, I've been an intelligence officer, I've been a maintenance tech guy. Like all of those things, all of those different skills that are useful in day-to-day life are things that I drew from my military experience. If I had to pick the best thing, I would say it would be exposure to the world as it is, and not exposure to the world as most people take it in through media. I have traveled, I have seen a lot of people, I have met them, tried to understand their culture, seen their geography, eaten their food. And I think that gives me perspective, both as an actor to bring new and interesting things to characters, but also perspective as a human being to sort of understand that everybody's got something going on. And things are different around the world, and that's okay. In fact, it's better that they are.
Yeah, that's really interesting with, like, your view of it versus what, like the media might put out there, or what we think as a result of it. How different is that reality?
The way I like to describe it is people can be generalized and stereotyped.
Often
it's almost impossible to do that to a person. So if you look at, I'll just arbitrarily pick a country, say Japan. Japan is very culturally different than the United States or Ireland. And so if your only exposure to Japan is in the media that is fed to you through your media sources that you're used to, then you have a view. But then when you get in and you start to meet Japanese people and you talk to a person on a train, or you have a chat with a storekeeper, you realize we're all human beings. We all want the same human being things. Their culture is a little different. Their food is a little different. There's some of it that's terrible. There's some of it that's amazing. And if you take a sense of wonder into it, you can learn so much cool stuff because there's so much cool stuff out there.
Yeah.
Conversely, if you look at a place like Afghanistan, there is a view of a place like Afghanistan or Somalia or Iraq that I can only speak for, say, the average American has, and that is what's fed to us by our media. And you think, oh my gosh, it's war-torn, it's horrible, it's miserable.
That's what we get too.
There are still shopkeepers, there's still farmers, there's still family gatherings, there's still birthday parties, there's still soccer events, there's still life goes on. We get hit with certain highlights of things, and so it's often easier to forget that the day-to-day business of human living is kind of a standard thing. It's better for some than it is for others, but we all love our children. We all want to eat. We all want to be safe. So I think if you travel a lot and then you make the conscious effort to look for that, I think it broadens you as a human being. And so that's probably the most important thing I took from my military time. And my father was in the U.S. Air Force for 20 years before I joined the Navy. So I spent my entire life living on military bases and moving around the world.
And, now that you're out of it, do you still have a desire to travel and learn about different cultures and how they carry on?
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons I think that drew me to acting, is because acting is an unending process of learning about new things. Only a fool would try to portray a brain surgeon without doing some research on what that kind of person's life is like. And that goes for any culture that you find yourself into, or job that you find yourself in, or place that you can portray that you aren't actually. And so I like that. I'm one of those people that I'm not a huge fan of going back to school. I've had enough school for my entire life, but I do like learning things that I enjoy. So
I think I can safely say that most people are done with school once it's over. I fucking hate it. Like the equivalent of what high school is over there. Like fucking hated it, man. I cannot stand school. I just get bad memories thinking about it.
It freaks me out. Like it really freaks me out when people like get out of school and the first thing that they want to be is a teacher. That scares me. It's like it's payback time. Yeah.
I would only do that just to go back and work at the same school with my teachers and call them by their first name every time I see them.
Because that happened. Like we had someone like who finished like 3 years before us, and then like they came in and they were like I guess the teacher's assistants before they like did the work experience. It was really weird.
I bet that would be, yeah. Especially, it's easier, I think, as adults, but at that school age, to just turn it around like that, it's just kind of odd.
Yeah. But, yeah, like a teacher who's nearly the same age as you, like that's a bit freaky. Yeah, but I mean, power to him. What did you study? You said you went to university.
Actually, I ended up with a degree in chemistry, organic chemistry and ballistics and stuff chemistry, like that.
You poor son of a bitch. Jesus Christ, man. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, Thomas isn't a fan of chemistry.
Not a fan of organic chemistry. And you're going to say it's easier once it's in college. It's not. Okay, good.
It's one of those things where you can be good at something without necessarily having a massive passion for it. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty good at math and chemistry and physics. I have a passion for physics, but the other things are like kind of fun. I learned how to learn. I learned how to research and study at university. I haven't used any of that knowledge as far as, mixing chemicals or building fibers and all the kind of stuff that I was doing back then. That was the first point in my life where I was like, well, I'm going to do and learn all of this, and then I'm going to go and join the Navy and do something entirely different.
Yeah, I was thinking, have you ever gotten to use your degree?
No.
Damn.
Oh, so, you know what?
You just have
there was a lot of math in that degree. And when I went in the Navy, when you're a pilot, you go to flight school, and then they give you your aircraft and you fly that airplane. If you can get yourself selected to the test pilot school, that's a separate school that you go to. And that school is sort of a master's level in physics and aerodynamics and engineering. So the base that I had from university really helped me there. That's a bit of a stretch, but that's what I used my university degree for. It was useful for that.
Well, there you go. But dude, in the States, your education system, especially higher education system, that's fucking expensive. That is so expensive.
And that's why, that's chiefly one of the reasons why I ended up in the Navy, was because I ended up on a scholarship. So they paid for my school. And in them paying for my school, I owed them a couple of years. And that couple turned into 20 just because they kept giving me cool stuff to do. Can't complain.
Yeah, there you go. It works. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird here. Like no one really knows anyone who has any military experience. You might know someone in the reserves. Like I have an uncle in the reserves, and all he tells me about is how good the MREs are. Yeah, that's literally it. I've had them too. They're lovely. They're my compliments.
They teach you how to make a bomb out of the heating packet?
No, no, I don't think they're allowed.
There's my chemistry degree at work.
There you go. But yeah, like in the States, it's such a big thing. Like the term military family is a thing there, and pretty much only there. You're not getting that here, or if you do, it's like what is like 4 of them on the entire island. Yeah,
it's it's a different culture within American society. That's what I can say about it. Because I have lived places where there is very little military presence, and they have no idea what the U.S. military is like. Los Angeles is not a big military town.
I'd say you get a fair bit of criticism.
Actually, no. It's a good time to be in the military, whether or not you consider it superficial or not. Most people will say thank you for your service. It just becomes sort of a natural thing. And I'm appreciative of that. I think there are lots of people who should be thanked for their service. Teachers for one, doctors and nurses and emergency responders, especially in a time like now.
Oh yeah.
So that's not bad. It's just they're not. I guess when you walk into the room and you say I'm a military veteran, they assume that you're either a Marine or a Navy SEAL. There's not. The military is its own society. There are people who spend 20 years in the military as bookkeepers. So they have the tag of military veteran, but they're not war fighters. I myself am a pilot. I've deployed to combat zones, but I wouldn't consider myself a war fighter.
Were you ever in a situation where you were like that?
I remember flying flights over Iraq and Afghanistan and Somalia and Libya and other places that were not friendly. But that's a lot different than kicking in a door in an unknown building.
Yeah.
I have an immense amount of respect for my friends who are special forces folks, and folks like Al. I mean, he was a salsa dancer, but he was a Marine, if I'm correct. And
not 100% sure.
I can't remember, to be honest.
It was a while since we interviewed that guy.
Yeah.
Marines are an interesting service in that every Marine is a rifleman first. So it doesn't matter what you do in the Marines. The first thing that you are is a guy with a gun. Not so in the Navy. You're a guy at the bar with a beer, I think, first.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine being a pilot, you'd need much, rifle training.
We did it because if you're going to fly over combat, doing Overwatch stuff like that, there is always the chance that someone's going to shoot you down or you'll have an engine failure and you have to land. So, we carried, and I'm a red-blooded American, so I own firearms. I shoot at the range maybe once a month. But the interesting thing is, for me, I do that as practice for my acting career, because a lot of the things, being a military guy, that I'm going to do as an actor are going to involve military guys with guns. So I just keep my skills sharp.
As long as they make action movies, they're going to need guys like you.
I don't think we'll run out of those anytime soon.
But are you gonna limit yourself to being the military guy, or do you want to broaden your experience in acting?
So that's an interesting conversation that we have all the time. So there is a term called typecast, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Some guys love it.
Well, I mean, the reality is, unless you're a star, unless your name moves money, in that attaching you to a picture or a TV show will get investment, then you have to fit into a sort of type so that when they're like, oh, we need this kind of person, they're going to think of a number of people. If you try to be everything, no one will remember you for anything. So the best way I've heard it described is you get in the door in the type that people see you as, and then you have an opportunity to broaden and show your full skill set from there. So as a working blue collar actor, I will work when work is available. We all have our limits of what we'll do, but I would like to have a job and get paid to do my performances. We all wish and hope to be in a position where we can pick and choose and go, I've played that kind of character before. I'm ready to do something entirely different. The one advantage of voiceover is that typecasting on camera is about here. Typecasting in voiceover is much more broad. Because I'm 6 Russians in Call of Duty Cold War. No one's going to cast this face with this afro as a Russian dude on TV. Not that there are not dudes that look like this who are Russian, but it's about the perspective of what the audience is expecting.
Yeah.
I had a funny conversation with a friend about, isn't it the Republic of Ireland's goalkeeper? As a black dude.
I think there's a bunch of black guys in our teams.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
And when he speaks at interviews, he's Irish, so he sounds Irish, and
Dude,
that
there's
takes
this phenomenon here of like a lot of people from Poland moved to Ireland like in the last 20 years, and the Polish Irish accent is just beautiful. It's just beautiful. I don't even know how to describe.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Like, everyone knows like it exists too. Like it's its own whole thing here. Or same with like Lithuanians who came over here. Just, an accent that shouldn't work with the Irish accent, it just fused, and I know it's its own breed. Yeah.
But I mean, you can't stop it when people get together and intermingle. Those accents, those dialects, the people in general are going to blend into something. That's one of the wonderful things about globalization, I think.
You would think that would have happened in the States sooner. It can happen in Europe fairly fast, but in the United States, it's been a fairly slow process.
We can be tribal in the States, but to define what's an American accent is as an impossible task as saying what is a Chinese accent or an English accent, or dialects change by town everywhere you go, and because America is so large and the mixing pot is so broad, you can hear some really interesting stuff. Especially in a town like Washington, D.C. that's very international.
That even happens here in Ireland. I wouldn't be able to understand someone in Kerry. Their accent is so strong. Or Donegal. Do you know in for the Irish course, you have to do a listening where the whole thing's in Irish and you have to translate it down on the page. And so what they do is that they have one in the Donegal dialect of the Irish accent, which nobody fucking understands.
Borderline unspoken. It's the most diverse one.
It is near impossible to guess what they're even trying to say. And they do it. Unless you're from Donegal, you're probably not going to get it right.
And how do Donegal people sound, Thomas?
I don't want to do the Donegal accent. What do you do?
Dordle.
I have a question for you guys. So how do you feel about the way that Irish dialects are portrayed in media, film, television, and games and stuff?
What's that film coming out, Jared, with Emily Blunt and John Hamm, with the accents are fucking outrageous.
It is terrible.
I can't think. They did a trailer for it like last year, and it has John Hamm and Emily Blunt, and they're trying to do this Irish accent, and it sounds god fucking awful.
I seen Alec Baldwin do one recently, and I nearly puked.
But the thing is, like, two Americans who are going to watch that film starring these big Hollywood actors, this is what they perceive the Irish accent as, whereas we, the Irish people, know that if anybody like that spoke here, we'd beat the shit out of them.
You're a disgrace. But
pretty much.
Our accents like vary.
Oh yeah, they vary.
Yeah, a lot as well. Like in the west of Ireland, the ST at the end of every word is pronounced so much. West. Like
really?
Or if you go up north, like it's like you've been kicked in the balls and it goes up a couple octaves. Like yeah. If you go down south, they say bye after everything. They say bye. And actually, no joke, a lot of guys from Cork can get in trouble in the States when they start calling everyone bye, because it has a different meaning in the States.
Yeah.
Not a fun one to find out. If you're just like a country Cork guy, and your first visit to the States. But then, even in Dublin, like they have these crazy accents depending on what part of Dublin you're in.
Yeah.
And then here it's just nothing really.
Even Dublin. Dublin is such a small county in Ireland. But there's completely two different dialects for North and South Dublin. It's mad.
South Dubliners and North Dubliners.
Yeah.
Accents are cool, man.
Oh yeah, they're mad.
They're very cool, and it's a scary place to be as an actor, because one thing I've learned is I find that authenticity is more important but authenticity can remove you from the running of the job. And that's a sort of a double-edged sword. You have to be aware, like you said, Thomas, who your audience is. If you're doing an accent for the American ear, they need to believe it. And oftentimes, because people are not as worldly as they could be, their sole understanding of the accent is what everyone has been imitating the whole time. That's why, if you're British, you're either, Colin Firth or Jason Statham. There's no in between or anything different. So it's always a challenge if you're doing a dialect or an accent for the native ear. So yeah, they're really interesting to study, but it's scary ground.
Yeah. Do you ever hear, like, I guess non-Americans do a American accent and it's ever sound awful? Like, say, Tom Holland or Benedict Cumberbatch.
Funny story. Hugh Laurie did what was the television show that made him so popular over here? House. We played a doctor, if you guys are familiar with that. Well, I grew up in England in the 80s watching, if you're familiar with a show called A Little Bit of Fry and Laurie, which was Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie. And it was very comedic and silly. And I remember Hugh Laurie from a show called Blackadder, where he played the idiot prince. And then I saw him on television doing this, what I thought was an odd American accent. And I was like, no, I don't buy it.
No, yeah.
But every American I've ever talked to was like, oh no, I had no idea he was an American. I'm like, okay. I will say that his American accent is good. I mean, that show was on long enough that he could fool anybody. And there are a lot of great, not just British, but foreign actors out there that do amazing dialect work. I'm not sure.
Fan now, Thomas.
I can hear too.
Ooh,
that's quite loud. It's a race car. I say so all the time. Like you said, a race car track. Yeah. He's on mute.
He's muted himself.
Yeah. But yeah, just a bad accent.
Yeah. I mean, it's like any other tool of performance. If you don't practice it, hone it, and make it better, it just won't be good. So I appreciate actors that put a lot of time into their dialect work. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it well. And it's like any other skill. If you're going to ride a motorcycle in a movie, you wouldn't do that in a poor way, would you?
Oh, you can curse.
I mean, okay.
Have you not noticed me cursing like a sailor throughout this thing?
I try not to.
One of the worst I've heard, and you've seen, oh Christ, it's gonna Fargo, is Martin Freeman's Canadian accent was bad.
it was still a great show.
Oh, it's a fucking terrific show.
Season 1 of Fargo is probably
absolutely
the best TV ever made.
It's incredible.
I would say also there's a lot to be said for individual character, because a dialect is a dialect, but as an actor, you're supposed to bring an individual character. And that character could be Polish Irish, could be African German, could be anything.
If you're not Polish Irish. It's very unique.
I think it forgives some dialect foibles as long as you've made the choice on purpose. Because not every one person, even from the same town, speaks in the same way. So any character that you do, as long as for me, the measuring stick is you never want to do a dialect that is a caricature of another person. It has to be authentic to whatever you're doing, even if it's funny and silly and stupid. So, I don't know.
Like you don't want to be doing like something that's dodgy, like going into stereotypes or whatever, because I think we're a bit beyond that. But We'll see.
We're trying to be. So I'll out someone, not by name here, but there's this interesting. The voiceover community is quite close in the United States, and there is one particular voice actress who is Caucasian, but keeps a separate website for her urban ghetto African American voices that she does. Essentially what we in America call putting on blackface. And she continually works because when you're behind the microphone, nobody knows. I would call that dodgy.
But let me ask you something. You play Peck, who's like a Russian guy, but I mean, like, you're not Russian.
He's an American. Peck is an American.
Oh, Peck's American?
Yeah.
I fucked that up.
No, Cool Clay is a Russian.
Yeah. But like, where does that line stop at?
And that's where it's difficult.
Because I remember the guy who played Cleveland in, is he Family Guy? He got fired.
Yeah.
Or no, he quit, actually.
Yeah. He stepped away because he felt that I can't speak for him, but we do have these conversations a lot of the time in the community. What auditions will you audition for? What jobs will you take? Is there a difference between doing it as the lead character? Because as a voiceover artist, if you're going in for a video game or an animation, when they buy your session, they've got 3 voices out of you for that price. So if I go in to do Peck, who's just like this jerk American, it's just like me being an asshole, and they want another character that's German. Well, I'm not German, but if you've got 4 lines and I know you can't hire another guy for a session to do those 4 lines in German, will I do them? The answer for me is yes.
That makes sense, yeah.
That does make a lot of sense. Yeah.
To a point. If you're asking me to caricature someone else's culture or language, for me, the answer is like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not comfortable with that as a performer.
You ever been put in that position?
No, I think like every other person of color, I've been asked to sound blacker. Because my
what does that mean exactly? Because again, we're going back to accents. You know, like, you want to be like a black Alaskan, a black Southerner. Like, what are you going for?
That's what you ask as a follow-up. Like, so I am black. You want me to sound more like me? And I know I'm being silly about it because I know that I speak very articulately. But at the same time, I do sound like a black guy because I am. You know, it would be like me asking you to sound more Irish.
Dude, that would piss me off.
You already are.
If someone asked me to do that, that would piss me off. You get the same kind of feeling? Like, if you get asked to sound blacker, like what do you mean by that?
The older I get, the less offended I get, I think, because I understand that it comes from a place of ignorance, and it's on me. The onus is on me to educate and say, look, and I'm also aware, like, I'm a brown skinned guy with a goatee and an afro who's covered in tattoos.
You're rocking it though. It's just.
But I mean, like, when I walk in the door, the stereotypes that the world gives us as people, you see me in a certain way. Now, when I start speaking, and I'm a highly educated military officer who's incredibly articulate, or at least I like to think so, and educated, it does change people's view of me. But I have to be aware of what the visual is, particularly in my medium of entertainment, because what you get first is the visual. So some people will look at my headshot and bring me in to read and then be surprised that I don't sound the way they expect me to. But that's okay, because you can go find somebody who does. I sound like me, and I'm going to be okay with that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't take as much offense anymore. I'm a little bit disappointed because we've wasted each other's time. If you wanted something different from me, and you don't want me as me, I can stretch within my acting tools, but I'm certainly not going to caricature anybody, because that's just not. I'm not down with that.
I think you have to figure it out. I think you explained that probably the best you could possibly. That was a pretty spot. I give you a difficult question to answer, dude. You fucking whoa.
Nailed that, man.
Dude.
Fucking props to you.
I mean, you learn more every time you run into a situation like that, and so you expand your experience and are able to to tackle these very, very difficult issues in hopefully a better way. Not to say that I haven't screwed anything up, because that's how you learn. You screw up stuff every day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to make mistakes, learn from them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really like your point. Like, you don't mind doing like 4 or 5 lines, like as a German guy, but to go over the top with it or be a main character as it, it's a bit different. So
yeah, there's a video game out there I absolutely love, Ghosts of Tsushima.
Oh yeah,
great video game. I would love to be in that video game, but I am not going to go in to portray a Japanese character. Why? Because there are a ton of Japanese voice actors out there who are amazing, and they can give you an authentic version of that.
But they also do need the the English version too.
True, and if you have a character that I feel appropriately fits me, and I can portray that, there isn't somebody out there that I'm unfairly taking work from, then I'm all about it. Yeah. Because I think that the issue with the guy Mike who wrote Cleveland was he created that character, and it was initially sort of a secondary ancillary character within Family Guy, right? And then he got a spin-off as his own show, and so it just kind of grew on its own. So I don't hold offense or begrudge a person that.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm assuming he went. I'm not even assuming. Like, he went in there with good intentions, but you know, the way the wheels have turned, you know, I guess it doesn't spin in his favor. But I'm pretty sure he made the right call. Say, should I really be doing this? You know, I'm not black, and I'm playing a black guy with like his whole TV show, and I'm a side character in this thing.
Yeah. It's certainly not a money issue for him, I would think.
Yeah,
so.
that's the difference, though. Like you were saying earlier, if it was like a smaller role or just to get in there, you wouldn't mind doing it. But there's no shortage there. You have your own show, and you're like one of the biggest shows on TV.
Mm-hmm. Well, there becomes a point, kind of like I said earlier, where your name moves money.
Yeah.
And if your name moves money, then you have a much larger impact on what entertainment properties you can do and how you can do them.
I wonder what's going on with that character now. Like, did they just retire Cleveland, or is someone else playing him, or did they?
I haven't even caught up. I don't know.
I haven't watched it in a long time.
Have they made any new episodes since he stepped down, or?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Neither do I.
Used to be big in the Family Guy, Thomas. I thought you'd know.
Oh yeah, but like newer stuff is a bit shit now. It's a bit like The Simpsons. You know how The Simpsons just kind of turn shit like after a bit?
Yeah.
It's like...
You know what never got shit? Futurama.
I never watched Futurama.
Just caught back up on. Pretty spot on.
I know Bender's supposed to be pretty funny. He's like a robot who talks. It's this whole thing, man. You'd have to watch Futurama.
Shut up.
And there is
this is not the first.
Like,
this is not the first time this conversation has happened, has it?
Yeah.
No, it is.
No, you say this thing, and you're like, oh, it's this whole thing.
This whole thing, though, it's like they're in the future, and one of them was like frozen, and it's this whole thing, right? And it's like it's the entire premise. Anyway, Zeke, you've been an awesome guest, and well, I just want to firstly thank you for coming on.
We didn't stick to the traditional kind of thing of what was it like to play this character, that character. Now we kind of talked about everything, and you were bang on with your answers. You know, you're pretty spot on. It was a great conversation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. It's wonderful to meet you and wonderful to chat. And like I said, we just get to learn more about people. So
The pleasure was ours. But if people want to check you out, where can they find you?
My website is zekealton.com. My Instagram is Zeke Alton. I don't have Twitter because I'm a troglodyte.
Probably better off.
I don't TikTok. I don't.
Oh, that's a shame. I thought I would love to see you do Renegade or the WAP.
The WAP.
Snaptogram and the TikTok.
And Bookface and Instasnap. Yeah, all these apps.
But yeah, and then you can hate me in Call of Duty Zombies, or you can play as me, coming out when Wolf comes out.
I love it.
Yeah, well, there you go. You know where to find them, and as we say, take it handy and stay away from yourself. Good luck. Top of the morning, lads and ladies. Support for the Awfully Irish podcast is now brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming.
Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and you're no longer need the look of the Irish with the ladies. Manscaped just launched in Ireland. We've gone years without using the right tools for the job. You can now be one of the first men in Ireland to experience their life-changing products.
Your balls will thank you.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code IrishPod at manscaped.com.
That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code IrishPod.